following is a production of Dirty Mo Media. Hey everybody, it's Dale Jr. back again for another episode of the Dale Jr. Download. It's Tuesday and it's Dirty Air, and I'm going to be doing this one by myself. TJ is out of the office today, and he's recovering from a little illness. We're wishing him well to get better fast. He'll be back soon. Travis is in the studio. Everybody else is here, and we're going to get started. So let's get to it. All right, so a lot to talk about, and Kyle Larson will be calling in later in the show, and we'll have Ask Junior as well. First off, I guess we should get to the Cars Tour. I raced in Georgia at Cordele this past weekend with the Cars Tour. We had the Pro and the late model stocks. It was a full weekend, and there was a lot going on. And Flo did a great job of covering all of the things happening throughout the weekend and during the races. I thought the races actually were better once I went back and kind of looked at the weekend as a whole. I was really frustrated at the end of the night, to be honest with you, and we'll get to that. But we had a little surprise, I would say, pop up on the radar earlier in the week. There would be an rather expensive testing rate. It was hourly at around $125, $150 a car. A lot of the tracks that we go to charge you that same price for maybe the entire day. And so that was a bit of a surprise for our teams and me as well. I wasn't really crazy about that, but when you look around the facility itself, I mean, this place was amazing. They had put so much money into it. Everything was top-notch, from the bathrooms to the fence to everything. I mean, it was just really a good facility. And our teams, I believe most of them, walked away going, man, I'd love to come back here. This was great. It's an extra hour or two or more for some of our teams to drive, and they're not excited about putting a lot of miles on the road and driving that far to some of the races. The late model stock car, the pro car runs all over the country. Our pro series could migrate probably further out, and maybe that's what we do with the pros. But our late model stock has a geographical footprint that it stubbornly adheres to, and that's maybe a little eastern Tennessee, Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. We had never raced in Georgia until this weekend, so that was kind of a cool thing to take them down to Cordele. So it opens up the idea of what we can do going forward. Maybe one race per season we try to take our cars just a little further down the road to a new facility we've never been to. But I've got to be realistic about that and not really stress our teams. All these people are blue collar. They have jobs, and we were not required, but we were kind of encouraged to be there as early as Thursday to practice. So if you feel like if you're not there and the other teams are, you're behind. And right, there's a lot of practice Friday and there's a lot of practice Saturday, and that's a whole nother conversation. We need to shorten practice up. There's too much practice. We all know the pavement guys love practicing. But if you're not there and the rest of the teams are, you feel like you're getting behind. And then when you go run, even second, third, or worse in the race, you chalk it up to not having as much time to prepare and be on the racetrack as the other teams. But we all got there Thursday. There was an expensive rate to practice that day. Some people only practiced a few hours. There was a minimum of 3 hours. Like, you had to rent 3 hours at minimum if you showed up. So some teams just did that 3-hour minimum. And then we had an open practice on Friday as well that was 4 hours. And honestly, we worked in circles. My team, we worked in circles. All the setups that we run at these racetracks are very close. We'll take pretty much the same thing everywhere we go. Little difference on the front stops maybe. Maybe the track bar is a little different. It's all very simple, though. There's no big swing changes that are happening in the late model stock world, at least. I can't speak for the pros because I don't really work on those cars or drive them, but I guess I say all that to say that from Thursday to Friday, we worked in a circle, changing a lot of things and changing it back. So it was really unnecessary to have that much practice. But anyhow, we got through Thursday, practice Friday. At the end of the day Friday, I felt like I had a top 3 car. I was really happy with the speed. The car was turning good. Everything was great. And then on Saturday, the track really got greasy, took a ton of rubber by that point, and we just lost the balance. My car started getting real tight. Talking to Bubba Pollard and a few people that race there on a regular, they'll tell you that the track does tighten up, and I underestimated that. I got that advice that it would tighten up, but didn't know that it was going to change as much as it did. Qualified 15th, which I was actually really happy with. I'm a terrible qualifier, especially in the late model stock car. Awful. And it's something that certainly I got to get better at if I'm going to have a shot at winning any of these races. But qualified 15th, absolutely, I'd love to be faster, but that was probably an improvement for me over the course of the last couple of years. And started the race and built tight throughout the race. At one point, probably 80 laps in, we were junk. I'd pissed the right front tire off and was struggling really to get turned and wasn't going anywhere. We had a couple of red flags that allowed my right front tire to cool off, and the car turned and fired off. And I think we were going to end up, the last restart, we were running fifth, and I think we'd have finished fourth or fifth. And so that would have been a decent end to the night. But unfortunately, the car in front of me on that restart missed a shift, and I knocked the radiator out of my car. That was very frustrating. We've had a couple cars miss shifts. We had, I thought Tristan McKee missed a shift in a late model stock race, but he actually was running out of gas and stumbling on that restart. And so we just had a lot of kind of not freak things going on, but some unfortunate situations on those restarts that destroyed a lot of cars and tore up a lot of equipment, and it delayed the show. We had red flags, and we ran late, and the local classes kind of, and the normal typical feet dragging of the day pushed the whole show about a half hour late, and then our pro race, which is 100 laps, took 2 hours to run. So, it was just a tough night optics-wise for our viewers at home and for the folks in the grandstands. But so I walked away from it a bit frustrated overall about everything, wishing we could be neater and a tighter consumable product. But then I heard some really good positive things from drivers about making that extra trip or going that further distance to race there. They thought, man, I'd love for this place to stay on the schedule. I was kind of surprised by that. I thought they would be more like, yeah, that was fun. Not sure I want to do it next year, but that was cool. But it seemed like they really did enjoy racing there. And some of the comments that I've seen, I haven't seen a ton, but some of the stuff I've seen on social media as far as viewership and people that were actually at the racetrack, they really had a good time. So it was a late night, though, for a lot of our fans and supporters, and we're working on that. We really want to be done by 10:30, so or sometime no later than that, I suppose. But it's tough. It's not as easy as it sounds. It's not as easy as just start earlier. We've got to consider some possible changes to our formats and stuff, to really get these races to fit into a small consumable box. And we've got 2 very important weekends coming up. We made an announcement on Friday. I think I would call this the biggest announcement today in pavement short track racing. No question. We're paying $50,000 for the late model stocks to win at Hickory in the Throwback Classic. And we're paying $30,000 for the pros to win on that same weekend. I don't think that there is another $50,000 paying late model stock race in the country in the calendar year, and I don't think there's another $30,000 pro late model race paying that in the calendar year.
What did the winner get this past weekend?
10. So, and the pros got less. So, or it might be 7. Might be 7,000 to win. I don't know. You asked me a question. I didn't have an answer. So I think that we did. I know that we paid $2,500 to start, which is almost twice what we normally pay because they were going to further distance to Cordele. I tried to get the bottom of the purse up. We're paying $2,500 to start at Hickory too. So not only is it the highest paying first place prize, but we're paying really, really good money to start the race. People aren't paying that to win at the local level in some instances, $2,500. So, man, that announcement for Hickory is as big as it gets, and we'll see how the industry supports it. I'm hoping that we get 120 cars, roughly 60 cars per class, pro and late model stock. I don't think that's ambitious, but I'll be disappointed if it's short of that. There will be no support classes at Hickory, so there's no other local classes running that particular weekend. So we'll have the entire property. We're going to need it, I feel like, to fit everybody in there. And I encourage anybody that has a car to come try to run this race. And we're not going to have a big gimmicky heat race format or anything that's going to tear a bunch of stuff up. There'll be a last chance race, more than likely, to give those guys a real opportunity at a good, sizable handful of spots to fill out the back of the field. And we're still kind of working on that format a little bit, but it's going to be relatively basic because I don't like, a lot of heat races and the potential to destroy a lot of cars for guys that don't end up racing in the main event. But either way, I just encourage all our car owners to try to come out and make the trip, support races like this. If we get a low car count, the people that are making this possible are not going to want to do it again. So, I'm anxious to see. I know the fans are going to come out. We're going to sell a lot of tickets. We're going to do a good job. That'll all work and do well. And I think the streaming number will do well. So those boxes will get checked. But it really comes down to, we talk about High Limit and the amazing job that High Limit's doing and the amazing job that they're doing all throughout dirt, from Millbridge to everywhere, right? Running all these little micros and all these races all over the country that Wyatt goes to. They have awesome Tulsa Shootout. They have awesome car counts. They have a lot of people that those owners and those cars, that's what makes that work. And so that's why they're able to have success in the dirt worlds, because there's a lot of people showing up to do it. And so those entry fees and all that stuff adds up, So that's how the promoters are able to continue to have these incredible events in that form of racing, and that's what it's going to take for us to kind of get over the next hurdle, or in pavement short track racing, is to get our car counts up. So paying more money in an already challenging economical format or ecosystem, the late model stock is relatively expensive to run. Now, as you get to pro and super late models, it gets even tougher, but that's a big deal. Plus, we have Wilkesboro coming up, where we're going to have the Wilkesboro late model stock race on FS1 during the All-Star weekend. It's on Friday night, and I'm going to be in the booth with Kevin Harvick to simulcast that on Flow and FS1. So a couple big things going on in the Cars Tour. Connor Hall won the race. He'll be disappointed if I don't mention that. So our team at Junior Motorsports has gotten off to a great start. We are a strong team. We've always competed well in the Cars Tour ever since we've been involved in it over a decade ago. But Connor's been a great addition. He's a two-time national champion. So no shocker there that they were competitive. Mini Tyrell had a great race, set on the pole again, and pushed Connor and tested Connor throughout the race. So it was a tough earned victory there. But again, I went back and Landon Huffman run third. Landon and I were texting last night, and he's like, "Listen, man, the racing was great. I know you were disappointed about this and that and other, but the race itself was awesome, and the series put on a great show." And he's right. I think the racing, the entertainment was there. It's some of the best racing on asphalt right now. As far as just tuning in, watching guys battle it out and pass and carry on, you won't find anything as good, I don't think, on the pavement stuff. Moving on to the Xfinity Series, Junior Motorsports had a really solid weekend. We have just really started off on the right foot this year. Normally, we've had, it's not, having speed like this isn't a new thing for us or anything unusual, but usually we don't really start the year with it. It's kind of something we develop or something that we produce midway through the season. But we started off this season strong and fast pretty much everywhere. Went out there and qualified really, really good and ran second, third, fourth, and 12th in the race. And Kyle Larson ended up winning at Bristol. He dominated for the most part, and he had some interesting words on Kevin Harvick's show yesterday that we'll talk to him about later in the show when Larson calls in.
I think the one thing too with Junior Motorsports is it's all 4 of your drivers are right there every week. I think Sammy Smith is 10th in points, and that's the lowest spot that you guys have right now.
I know, we're excited, and we have SVG and Chastain and other things going on with the 5th car. So we go to the racetrack, and man, over the last couple of years we went to the racetrack, and it was a bit of a struggle getting all 4 cars to be competitive. And this year, I knew it. I told them at the start of the year at the company meeting, I said, I'm more excited about this driver lineup than I've been in a long time. I think we've got a real shot at all running very competitively. And Connor and Carson, Connor Zilic and Carson Kvapil, are young. They're going to have these flashes like for example, like Connor had, like they both had at COTA, and Connor and Carson had this past weekend at Bristol. They're going to have these flashes where you see it. You see the talent. There'll be other races too where they struggle or have an issue. I think Connor got ran into, had some damage, and didn't have. I talked to his crew chief this morning. He didn't have a top 3 car, but it's fun. It's fun and exciting going to the track with. I think Justin's going to do what Justin does. He's going to be dependable. Going to be there every weekend. And then you got 3 other young guys that I think have real, true opportunity to advance far into this NASCAR world and industry. So it's pretty fun. I'm proud of Sammy Smith. He's had to overcome some pretty tough adversity since Martinsville. That was a really rough week, and he's kind of trying to build back that respect and earn back that trust from his competitors and fans, and he had a great result at Bristol. Really solid race. So with the Xfinity race and Larson winning and his comments on Kevin Harvick's show yesterday, he went on Kevin Harvick's show. What did he say? What was his – I don't want to misquote him. Said he wanted to embarrass the field, wanted to embarrass NASCAR.
But I want to embarrass them.
Yeah, he wants to embarrass them, wants to embarrass NASCAR. And he made the comment. The first thing he said, I didn't like. He said he wanted to embarrass the field, then he wanted to embarrass NASCAR, and he was mad, he was not happy that they limit the races that the Cup guys can run. And the rest of the point he made was valid, and he's basically saying that these kids that are in there think they're better than they are, and I like to go in there and show them where the standard is, or what it might be, what they might be up against if they were to ever get to the Cup level. And they need to know that now, right? They need to know how much harder they need to work. I get that. Mark Martin was that guy for years. He was the guy that would show up and you were like, nearly impossible to beat in the 60 car Winn-Dixie. Damn, he pushed you. He pushed us all to try harder. We would not have raised our game had he not showed up. Kyle Busch did that. Kyle Busch would show up and take the money. And it was frustrating because as an owner, you're racing against Kyle Busch and Joe Gibbs Racing. You're racing against not only an elite driver, arguably one of the best of that era, and elite equipment that's still elite today. I mean, damn, Joe Gibbs shows up, and they're hard to beat no matter who's driving their race cars. But Kyle would just run and run and run year after year and win half or more of the races that he competed in. And when he showed up and was going to run first, he knocked everybody in the field down a notch, And that's and when you do that a lot throughout the year, that adds up financially for those teams, right? And so, but he was determined, and there wasn't nothing saying he couldn't do it, and nobody, and then NASCAR stepped in and said, we're going to limit the Cup drivers to 5 races a year. And I think that has served a good purpose. I do. Now, is it the right number? Is 5 the right number? I don't know about that. Kyle Larson's complaining that it's not, but he's only running 2. And he only run the 2 tracks that he's really, really freaking good at, Bristol and Homestead. He picked Homestead and Bristol because he knew those 2 would be a great shot at winning. And he wanted to win the triple. He wanted to win 2 triples this year so he could tie Kyle Busch, who's done that twice. And then he doesn't have another race on the schedule, and he gets out and goes, I embarrassed them. I want to embarrass them every time I drive. I wish he would sign up for some more races now because I know one race team and one owner and 160 employees that will love another shot. And so, I know that I don't know. I don't know that he wasn't trying to get under somebody's skin or brag. And he has the right to brag, but he can expect that to absolutely nerf the other teams and our team. We have a relationship with them. We share setup information. They come, they're in our meetings, and they take all the information that we have, and then they put it in his car, and he goes out there and runs good, right? It was just odd.
I don't think he has a right to brag. You're a Cup driver. You should be better.
That was the other argument is I don't know why he didn't lap the field. Said he was going out there Saturday in the Xfinity race to lap the field, and he should have. And the fact that he only won by a couple seconds, right there at the end, I think Carson was relatively similar in lap time. They ran into a bunch of traffic, and it allowed the lead to close up a little bit. Maybe Larson wasn't pushing, but look, he had the field covered, but he should, and he should run the way he ran. That's the end of it. I understand the point he was trying to make, but how he presented it only made me wish he would sign up for a few more races this year so we would have a chance.
Yeah, you got 3 more, Kyle.
Well, yeah. And, hey, he'll tell us, well, the Hendrick car's full. They got Day, Rajah, Finch. They got a season full. Well, there's other Chevrolets out there. He won't be in that sweet, sweet Hendrick equipment carrying him around that racetrack, but, hey, he's the difference maker, right?
Yeah.
So, and the Cars Tour would love for him. That's one box he ain't checked. He went to the Cars Tour and raced our car, a good car, at Caraway and ran 7th or so. So there's some mountains he ain't climbed yet. I think he's incredible, obviously, and he's gaining a ton of confidence. And I like when he runs in the Xfinity Series, and I like when the Cup guys do come down there. I was Kevin Harvick, and I talked to Justin Allgaier as well. I was thinking about back when Harvick came into the Xfinity Series, and even when I came into the Xfinity Series, you'd go to Charlotte, and there'd be 25 Cup guys, 60 cars trying to qualify for the race. It was insane. There's still 36 to 40 Xfinity regulars, and if they were to open up the floodgates and say, hey, Xfinity guys, run as much as you want, we might get back to 15, 20 guys showing up for some of the marquee events throughout the year, Charlotte and so forth, Indy. I don't know if that's better that's probably better for the drivers, the young drivers, to Larson's point, to be able to race against more Cup guys on a regular basis. But the business, I would also argue that it's not a good business model for the teams that are trying to compete in the series and make a living doing it.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is like, what's best for the sport as a whole? And I don't.
Well, if Hendrick, Joe Gibbs, Penske, any of those top Cup teams field 1 or 2 Xfinity cars with a Cup driver in it on a very regular basis, you're talking about on average maybe 5 or 6 spots less of purse money that all of the other regular teams are going to have to miss, right, and have to find, and that really adds up.
And like potentially playoff points.
Yeah. I mean, it would affect everything. That's okay, though. I mean, points is points. I'm not worried about that. That's not a financial. I mean, in a roundabout way, it could be financially bad, but if you were to miss the playoffs and because you weren't able to accumulate enough points because you ran 6 spots worse in a certain race or something. But you could argue it. I think that he just didn't have to say what he said.
I will say, though, I'm kind of glad he did, because then you think about it, when he won, to the crowd, he said, made sure Denny didn't win this. So, like, maybe starting to come out of his shell a little bit, and, that's a good thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, we need the sport to have personality. We talk about how we don't want this, we don't have enough personality. We don't have enough superstars. That's what superstars do. My dad said, if they ain't cheering, you better hope they're booing. If they're not doing anything, that's the problem. And so, yeah, I'm that part of me says, hell yeah, say what you want to say. Say whatever it is you believe. But the other side of me says, I want you to sign up for some more races.
The podcaster says, say it, and the owner says, come race.
Well, now I want him to come race because I want some more shots. I know the rest of these people in this shop, too, they want some more opportunities. They don't want him. He's kind of like the guy where they're breaking the fight up and his buddies are holding him back, and he's like, yeah, you better be glad my buddies are holding me back. You better be glad NASCAR's limited me to kicking your ass, right?
Yeah, Carson wants another shot at him.
Yeah, they do after he said that. I promise you, all of them do. And that's a good thing. Yeah, fire them up. Fire my guys up. We'll see how they do. Moving on to the Cup race, and we're going to talk a little bit more about Cup and just the season at large. The first thing I want to do is say, if you hadn't listened to Denny's show, Denny Hamlin's Actions Detrimental, he's got a brief podcasting career, doing a great job. This past show, I think, was his best. He really dove into a very diplomatic explanation of the challenges for the NextGen car at a short track. And I thought he did a good job of being clean about it and not just, dumping on NASCAR. He was very, very smart about his opinions. So if you haven't heard Denny's show, man, I would suggest y'all go back and check that out. I watched the race, and it wasn't a great race. Somebody, I thought it was funny, somebody on social media said, if you're having trouble sleeping at night, you just need to throw that one in on the TV and problem fixed. So instead of turning on the History Channel or some monotone,
you don't need a sound maker.
Monotone sound maker. I thought that was funny, but that's a little harsh. Listen, you can pick any decade in, let's just say, Bristol history. Pick any decade. There have been bad races. All right, at Bristol. We talked about Larson leading all those laps and compared him to Cale Yarborough, who also led a ton of laps at one particular point in his career at Bristol. Cale led every lap in the 73 race, and they didn't have any cautions. And that was when cars fell apart, fell off, broke, blew motors, all kinds of crazy going on in the race, and they still didn't have a yellow, and he ran all day. Imagine how boring that one was.
That one definitely falls asleep.
He probably won by a couple laps. I'm sure he did. And then Darrell Waltrip went on a string of 9 straight wins there. You'd show up, and he win in Junior Johnson's car over and over and over. I think it was 7 or 9. He ended up winning maybe 12 total. So, I mean, there's been dominance, sustained dominance. This was, Larson going in there won. I mean, Larson's won a few races there, but when he hasn't won 6 straight. There's been worse cases, I guess, of what we saw, and I don't mind the dominance. I think we're talking about the wrong thing. Cars are going to go to races and sometimes dominate. That's okay. That night that Truex beat everybody by 13, 20-some seconds or something at Kentucky. Remember that night? Just destroyed the field. He went to Charlotte same year, I think, and led all but 6 laps or something. Just killed them. That don't bother me. I like to see that sometimes.
You see it in all sports.
Yeah. I love to see a real ass kicking. We're talking about the wrong thing. What stood out to me was the lack of excitement and drama throughout the field. Everybody knows I'm a Josh Berry fan. I ain't going to hide that. So I'm watching Josh, right? kind of paying attention to where he's at the whole race. He ran roughly from 12th to 16th all day. I think his average running position was 14th. And for long stretches, he and no one else made any passes. They would be just, I'm sitting there, they weren't really showing Josh on TV, so I'm looking at the NASCAR app and the intervals and looking on TV, and I mean, they just sat there, stuck behind the guy they were stuck behind, and the guy behind them was stuck behind them. It was like nobody could go anywhere. And that was the problem for this race. The car has a lot of physical characteristics that will make a majority of the short track races look a lot like what we saw on Sunday. And Denny dives into that on his show.
Yeah, he said that the speed from the first place driver to last place is
1/10.
Yeah.
The whole race. Dude, you could watch that NASCAR app and look through the entire field from first to last, and it'd be like he's a half-tenth faster, half-tenth slower, half-tenth faster, tenth slower, tenth faster. Everybody's just running the same damn lap time throughout the whole field. NASCAR's in a tough spot as as any change that could happen would take unanimous collaboration with the owners. And the owners are already tapped out on spending and likely don't want to spend further on experiments. Unfortunately, I feel like we've got what we got. And Denny even said that as well, where he says, man, I've been in these rooms and these conversations with people, and there's really no talk about any big change coming down the line. There's no talk or no conversation around something being different or which is interesting, because it does. I do feel like we got what we got. It is what it is.
Yeah, there's not like a magic bullet that's gonna fix the car in 2 weeks.
When it comes to racetracks under a mile in length, this is kind of what we're all going to deal with. Denny did say that he knows of about a half a dozen things that they could change easily that would have a positive impact on short track racing. One of these things that he pointed out was removing and altering parts that force this car to rely on the underbody for the downforce that it creates. He also mentioned tires and obviously horsepower during his show. But without question, dirty air is his number one issue. And I find this really interesting. He discussed how he had to run every lap at Bristol. It's really telling. This was an explanation from him on how to run the most efficient lap. He has to watch the car in front of him, and as they approach every single corner, he has to quickly try and guess what lane that car is going to run so that he can then choose to run in a different lane. He has to run a different lane to have the most efficient lap, to be able to allow that car that he's driving to gain the most downforce. All the air that he's gaining, all the downforce he's gaining is going underneath the splitter, back to the diffuser. And if he follows the car in front of him, he doesn't get any of that air. Following the lead car presents massive aero disadvantages, and he desperately needs clean air. And that clean air is his absolute number one focus during every single turn. So it's zero surprise that this car struggles at a short track where there is minimal room to find that clean air, and drivers are in a different corner every few seconds. Passing is a perpetual improbability and will remain that way until the aerophysics are different than what we have today. We talked about everybody running the exact same lap time for the most part. They talk about the cars being the same parts, same cars, same speeds. All the drivers are getting smart about how to aero block. They know that they don't even have to run the corner correctly. They just need to be in front of the guy behind them. Denny called it a sports car. It is. They did take a lot of ideas from the V8 supercar. It has a lot of IMSA characteristics in terms of the body, the diffuser, the front splitter, and so that is it. That is it. Now, what we do from this point, I don't know. I don't know that. All NASCAR would need to want to make a massive change, and then the owners would have to also be on board with that direction, getting all of those. It's very complicated. It is not as easy as calling your buddy and say, hey, man, y'all want to do this? Everybody's got to get together and agree and understand the financial risk involved. Is everybody okay with that? Denny talked about that as well. So, again, great show by Denny because I feel like he spelled it out for all of us, what most of us already knew.
How worried are you, though, with short tracks if it continues to have races like this that we might lose some of these races?
Listen, I'll tell you right now, Marcus Smith can't keep going down this road. You look at the grandstand Sunday, you see the way the race went. What do you think his ticket sales are going to be like? You think they're going to go up?
Nope.
It's awful. Everybody has their opinion about promoters, track owners. Some love, some disagree, some don't like. Whatever. I know it's a polarizing conversation around Marcus, around NASCAR, around drivers, around everything. Everything's very, very edgy. But we do know that we love Bristol. We want Bristol to be Bristol, right? Whatever that is for you, We all want to go to Bristol and go, hell yeah, man, awesome. I want to watch it on TV and go, damn right, love that, entertained. What happened this past Sunday isn't sustainable for Marcus for the track, right? Long term, that is not a survivable scenario, and so I would say that he can't, they can't. That's not a successful pathway forward. So, and that might be the one thing that actually creates change, right? Drivers, we can sit here and complain and say we think we know what needs to happen. We may be right, we may be wrong any given day sitting here in this room. Drivers, owners, fans even, right, can say what they want to say and get all up in a roar, and it might not really move the needle in terms of real change. It might not really get NASCAR's attention, but when they see the business model struggling, then they'll have to make a change. They'll want to make a change. Because they own tracks too, right?
Yeah, I think attendance and ratings are the things that are really going to drive a change.
I think you're right. And to Denny's point, hopefully it drives a change to improve where we need to improve, which would be the short track package. It is needed to improve for quite a while. There's no real debate there. Hopefully we make changes to fix that, because it was once our golden egg. Man, can't wait to go to Martinsville. We're always going to see something. Can't wait to go to Bristol. We're always going to see something. Always going to get something fun out of that. Hopefully they make the change to improve short track racing and not just move away from it. So we'll see. I think, I don't have a gloom and doom feeling about this. I think it'll figure itself out. I think it will. I believe that they'll get it figured out, or something will happen, or it'll cycle back to where, man, the short tracks are the best thing on the series. We need more. I know we'll be saying that again someday. The other thing that's interesting after the race, and I love this. I don't really know that there's an end game conversation here, but I'm just interested in y'all's take. There's two conversations on social media. Social media, the rubber band back and forth on social media is so funny to me. There's a battle between, obviously post-race, between the "that was terrible" crowd and the "it's not that bad" crowd. A lot of the industry insiders, particularly people that had good days Sunday, were part of the "it's not that bad." Then you had fans literally going, "I don't know that I've seen anything worse." So that was it's just interesting to me to see. So my algorithm's feeding me both of those, and it's interesting to see like the the contrast between both. Now, the good race poll from Gluck was an 80-20, and one of the worst ones, I think, at Bristol in a long while.
Well, that's what Gluck put one out before the race, what they wanted from tire wear, like last spring, fall, or somewhere in the middle. And it's like 50% and somewhere in the middle, and it's like to try to nail, like, to Goodyear's defense, how do you nail,
I would have...
You can't please everybody.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen a race where you got to manage the tire. I don't want that every week, but I do want some races where tire management's a part of it. That's part of being a great driver, is going, all right, man, I can push this tire and it's going to suffer, just like in Days of Thunder, where they're like, all right, here's my way and here's your way. You had two tires there. One tore all to hell and one was still good. I mean, that's part of becoming a great driver, is managing the tire and being smart with it. And if the tire can take it, all the abuse, and it can you just go out there and run qualifying laps every lap, that to me is not compelling. But to some people it is. So some races that's fine. But I think in some races I do want some tire management. I don't know that we produce tires that you really have to be smart, that the tire's going to give up on you before the end of the run if you're not careful. But again, going back to the social media, the other battle is the nostalgia posting. What is going on? You can't post nostalgia posts anymore. People are, like if you post something like, man, look at this is so cool. People are like, yeah, man, get over it. It's never going to be like that again. It's like, wait, I was just saying this is cool. Not, I just like this era, or what I'm watching here is neat.
Well, I think there's a lot of people that post like this and like, why can't we have racing like this?
Oh,
and
I know. They'll post the good old days.
They post the one good race, but forget the following week there was a blowout.
I know. I do that. I don't see anything wrong with it.
Well, I think you have to remember, though, one, Twitter is a small percentage of the actual fan base of any sport.
Yep.
But also, a lot of fans are probably younger and don't even they're not love the sport like you do and remember these races. So I think they're this young crowd that it's also just you have to have a take on Twitter. You can't just post something and
everybody
I just want to enjoy it.
Oh, thanks for posting that.
I want everyone else to enjoy it with me.
Yeah, I guess when you do post something, everybody's compelled to have one of two reactions. I like that. I don't like that. There's no, oh, thanks, that's neat. Nice post.
Just hit the like button, keep it moving. That doesn't happen.
Yeah. I do that though. I posted. There's one race that I love to post. That's my Achilles heel of nostalgia posting is the 1980 World 600. Darrell Waltrip, Benny Parsons are racing for the lead, bumper to bumper. I think in the last 20 laps, they changed the lead about 15 times. In the last 4 laps, they changed, or even in the last lap, they changed it 2 or 3 times. It was just wild, really cool. You thought, man, this guy's got the better car, and he would get ahead. And when he took the lead, the lift that created, Mark Martin talks about this on social media. Back then, the cars created lift. Once he gets the lead, his car comes out of the track, and he's sliding around, and Benny Parsons would go back by, then Darrell would go back by, and they kept doing this over and over, and it's like, holy Now, the rest of the field was 7 laps down. But I'm sitting there and the reason why I love posting that is not because I think that the best racing NASCAR ever had was 1980. What I find interesting about that is how those two cars reacted to each other. In my belief, and I will die on this hill, if you take the basic idea, if you look at the downforce numbers or the lift numbers and how whatever those were for that particular car. Now you also have to think about the motor and the power band and the torque and the tire and what type of rubber it had, because all of those things play a role in what we're seeing in this particular race. But I just think that if you had 40 cars on the track that were all relatively competitive, that equation of power versus downforce versus lift versus drag, that model of whatever's happening right there between those two cars was elite. And so I don't even know if it's I don't know if you could even replicate it with what we have today. I don't know if they could make a car that had the same aero efficiency or or struggles that they had back then. But whatever was going on, how the faster car could pass but not keep the lead and lose it easily, and they were just the way they drafted a bit even. There was a bit of there was all kinds of great neat things happening, and I posted that. I posted it a long time ago, and Kevin Harvick responded to the post. He goes, I was like, man, this is epic. This is as good as it gets. And he goes, why? The third place was 3 laps down that day. And I'm like, no. What I mean is how these two cars are working together and engaged, and how they're affected by each other is what I think is amazing about this that we just don't have. And then he talked about that in his show. He's like, man, you can't disrupt the car in front of you. You drive up to them, and they don't lose air. They don't suffer any kind of aero deficiency.
And he said when they were building the car, there was at one point, if the car got out in the lead, it was too squirrely.
Yeah, really loose, which honestly sounds great. I mean, that's kind of what
you're talking about.
We need. I remember a race. Oh man, me and Matt Kenseth. This happened a couple times. So in 1999, 1998, racing in the Xfinity Series, that was a really good aero package. Now, the cars weren't sealed. We've learned that. You can't unlearn that. That's another thing. There's a lot of things we've learned that you can't unlearn. And so you'll always be fighting against that. But me and Matt would race together, and man, I'd be faster than him, I thought, but it was actually, he was just too loose leading. And I'm like, man, I'm better than you. I'm going to go by. And then I would get the lead and go, holy I don't want the lead. I'm too loose. Holy cow. You go back by. I'm going to ride behind you. And he's like, I don't want to lead. And we both were driving away from the guys behind us, but we would both get out in front of each other and not be able to comfortably stay there. You could try, but God, you were heating the right rear up and getting looser and looser, and you'd have to just go, hey, man, you go for a little bit. And then you get behind them and get tight and get comfortable and then cool your car down, and then they're up there skating around. It was awesome. And, that's what needs to be going on. Like, the lead car needs to be at a disadvantage. And there is a way to find that. There's a way toward that. Let's move on and talk about overperforming, underperforming, meeting expectations. Let's go through the list of a few drivers, and I wanted to kick this off first off by shouting out, and I did this last week, I think, Colleague Racing. I give them a hard time. We race against them all the time in the Xfinity Series, and at times, man, especially like at Daytona and Talladega over the years, they've kind of been a thorn in our side. They've been tough competitors, and we love to race and beat them, and they love to beat us. But last year, they were abysmal, awful. I was even under the impression that they were maybe looking for the exit ramp as an organization in the Cup world. Fast forward to right now, they bring AJ back into the Cup car. They hired Ty Dillon, which I didn't know how that was going to work out because Ty's kind of been MIA for a while and just kind of piecing things together and struggling. But both cars have overachieved, in my opinion. I mean, just basically looking at the statistics, you can see a huge improvement. But AJ has been running great.
I mean, Ty's ahead of Brad Keselowski, Noah Gragson, SVG, Riley Herbst.
Ty is, I'll say this about Ty, the number one trait that he has in his mind and on the racetrack is determination. No matter what has happened to him throughout his career, he has not lost the idea in his head that he believes he can do it.
How important is that mental side of racing?
Well, I mean, it's stubborn. He's stubborn. Like, because most people who have had the career he's had would go, yeah, guess I don't got it. Guess that I'm just, guess this just isn't for me. Or they would beat themselves down. And I'm sure he's had some tough days. I'm sure he has. But when he's behind the wheel of that car, he's a damn stubborn ass. I'm not, I'm going to drive my ass off and I belong here kind of guy. And it's starting to prove out. I'm seeing some comments on social media. People are taking notice. Their cars are running better this year. And they should be recognized. Damn. It is hard to be. Cup is so hard. And for an organization like theirs that's much, much smaller, and they have an alliance with a larger team, they're not supposed to do this. They're not supposed to turn things around like that. And so it is just hard to run competitive and as competitive as they're running. They're right up behind these bigger teams. They're right up their ass, man. And it's impressive to see. AJ, I didn't know if AJ still had the drive. Dude's getting up there. He's done it. What's he got to prove? And he seemed almost annoyed to be in the Cup Series a couple years ago. Like he's just ready to drop back down the Xfinity Series, have some fun, get back to racing, running up front. He was frustrated. And then I was surprised when he took the role to go back. Because Cup Racing Garage is they ain't smiling. It ain't roses and sunshine over there. That garage is tough. It's cutthroat.
Maybe realize once he left, he's like, realize what he missed,
maybe.
and what he had.
But I mean, the Xfinity Garage is funner, less pressure, few more people smiling. He can go over there and be more competitive. Probably make the same amount of money. I don't know. Probably not a big difference. But he goes back to the Cup Series where everybody's grumpy. Everybody's mad. And he's over there making it work. It's tough. I am impressed. But let's get to some more drivers, man. Let's see our opinions on a couple of drivers' seasons so far.
Chase Elliott. He currently sits 5th in points, 2 top 5s, 5 top 10s, 1 finish 20 or worse.
Chase Elliott would not be happy with that. Neither would his crew chief, Allen. But I am. Chase to me, like whatever, this tells you how tough the Cup Series is. He got injured, snowboarding deal. I know that was a while ago, but that little disruption sort of set him back, and the team just couldn't really ever find their groove or find some speed or consistency and get him comfortable. For a while, it was really a struggle. Now this year, I'm starting to see that car run like you might expect it to, and now they still have some tough days. I think Bristol, they were probably disappointed for sure to be, not be up in the top 10, and it was just a track position thing more than likely. But I think that there's a glimmer of what can be for that team. I know he's probably disappointed, but I think they've improved and they're starting to head in the right direction.
Bubba Wallace, he's 8th in points. He's got 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s. 5 times he's been 20th or worse.
Yeah, I know. The statistics don't do it justice. The eye test to me says that Bubba's having a better year.
I agree. He's been up there.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't always get the finish.
Yeah. Bubba always, in my mind, before this year, Bubba had those, handful of tracks where you're like, okay, he could have a good run here. He does have some history of running good at Kansas, Talladega, Daytona. He has certain places where you're like, all right, not surprised to see him win or run in the top 5. Now he's doing it almost every week. Now he's competitive and matching, if not beating, his teammate Reddick at times. It was more consistently Reddick outrunning him week after week, and now I think Bubba's they had a crew chief change, maybe some new ideas, new energy, new excitement around what could be. Sometimes you can change the crew chief, not even be putting a better, smarter guy in there, but it's just a change. You just need a reason to be excited, You
got the fatherhood aspect of it.
Yeah, I don't think that really matters.
No? Don't think it changes who.
Fatherhood slows you down. If anything, becoming a father takes a lot of your risk assessment away. You start thinking about, man, I don't need to shoot for that gap. Fatherhood, becoming a father does not make you 2/10 quicker.
All right.
Yeah.
Chase Briscoe, 13th in points, 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 3 times outside top.
Disappointed. I think we looked at Chase and how he performed in the Stewart-Haas stuff, and we're like, man, they were struggling. The other cars were struggling, but he was the bright spot. Maybe, seeing what he did in the Xfinity car, then he moved on to the Cup car, and he would be the one car there that would get the win, pop off here and get a win here and win there, just show up some day. He had that really fierce sort of battle into the playoffs last year. And we're all sitting there thinking, oh, damn, he's going to get in this Gibbs car and light it up. And Gibbs has been great this year. Denny, Christopher Bell.
They got 5 wins.
And it's just not happened for Briscoe. Is Briscoe talented? Yes, very talented. Will they get it figured out? Will he run like Denny and Christopher Bell? I believe so. I just think that for whatever reason, and he probably could tell you right now, they just haven't gotten it figured out yet. And, Ty Gibbs is a talented driver. They're struggling too. So
he's starting to find it.
Well, he had one weekend.
He said
okay, a couple
two.
2 weekends. All right. So, hey, but I'm just saying it's not like he's the only teammate running bad or struggling. So I'll give him a pause, a 90-day pause. No, I'm kidding. I'll give him a you got that joke. I'll give him a little more time, before I start getting real critical, like, hey, what's going on? I mean, if we're sitting here 3/4 of the way through the year and he's still not improved statistically, I think there'd be like, hey, what is it? It's not him, but what could it be that he needs that's missing in that team?
Justin Haley, 23rd in points, 5 top 20s, 1 top 10.
I think Hocevar makes it difficult for his teammates because Hocevar somehow, as goofy and crazy as the kid is, has speed. Now, Haley had a great weekend at Bristol. They qualified well, and they ran up front in the top 15 all weekend and got a reasonable result. I think they overachieved this weekend. I know they probably were like, oh, we're supposed to run up there. That's how we want to run. But from my seat, this weekend was a big bright spot for them as an organization for Spire. But Haley is going to always look at his teammates and say, man, because they're all kind of – so the reason with Spire, I think we're all a little uncertain as to exactly how good they are, how good they can be. And there's been some steady improvements in that organization in the last 48 months or so. And so we're always having to reevaluate our perception of them. And so he doesn't really truly know how good they should run. And he can only look at his teammates and go, where are they? And he's always probably looking at Hocevar and going, all right, that's my mark. I need to at least run as good as him. When he goes out and runs a lap time and Hocevar puts his car up in the top 15, you damn well better know that Haley's looking at that and going, my turn. I'm going to go do that. I better go do that. My car should do that. Because he has really no other gauge to judge his performance than his own teammate. And so I think he'd probably say my answer to that would be he'd be slightly disappointed. Rodney Childers comes on board. They make a bunch of changes, big splash in the offseason. And he would probably not sit here and say they're satisfied.
Chris Buescher, 12th in points, 1 top 5, 5 top 10s.
He's a bit off. Yeah. But that's the kind of guy and the kind of team that could show up and run top 3 the next couple of weeks and not surprise you. But right now, I would say that they're probably off. This past weekend, they were oddly slow, right? Not competitive. And again, Bristol was a big track position. Nobody could pass. But, some people did. He just didn't have a good car. He didn't have a very good car. So I would say it's odd because Brad's kind of shifted to become the better car of the group, where Buescher was that guy for a couple years, right? And damn, Buescher ran really good there probably 12, 18 months ago.
Yeah, Brad's struggling right now.
Well, Brad is having a couple off weeks, but the whole organization just hadn't had a good little stretch, good month.
Ryan Blaney, 6th in points, 1 top 5, 5 top 10s. But
I said this a couple weeks ago. Blaney's had some rough luck. They're fast. He was fast this weekend. They're fine.
That's why I think it's like, you know that you're competing, and
Yeah.
when he's had the bad finishes, it's nothing that
No.
he can do.
Yeah. They're fine. They're you know, they're an elite team. They're a top 3 team that's just had weird things happen to them. And as long as they don't get distracted by that, they'll go out and they'll start, when the races come together and the luck comes their way, they'll be there to capitalize on it.
I feel like they always show up when it matters most
Yeah.
at the end of the year anyway. So
They always do, but they're fast now. Usually in the years past, they were like a 5th to 8th place car, arguably, throughout the regular season, and then they'd pop off and be a championship contender in the playoffs, and that was kind of the Penske way. But they're a winning car today. Pretty much any weekend we show up.
Less driver, Michael McDowell, 19th in points.
If Haley's disappointed, Michael's even more disappointed. I could be wrong, but looking at the way the Spire cars run, Michael's always a bit off his teammates.
Especially considering he's going over there, he probably had higher expectations
Yeah.
than what he's been doing.
Yeah. I'd say he's very disappointed, and they're probably trying right now, to figure out like what's missing. Why aren't we even like able to match what our teammates are doing? And it's probably a couple small adjustments. I think a lot of his team and his crew chief and feel like that they'll figure it out, but right now I think he's probably very disappointed. 19th in points though. I don't have his statistics laying in front of me, but just watching him race and seeing where he is throughout the races, I'd say he's very fortunate to be in the top 20 in points.
Yeah, he's had 5 top 20s, and he's had the pole once.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
that's it for that.
All right, we got an off weekend coming up. A lot of teams are going to do a lot of different things during the Easter break, but the Xfinity Series will be going to Rockingham.
How good is that for you to see NASCAR back there?
I'm glad. I didn't think Rockingham had a shot. I really didn't. It's been, a new group has purchased the track several years ago, and they turned it into a multi-use venue. A lot of concerts and different things going on out there, and they've put some of this money that they're making into the track itself. Was it Ben Kennedy said that there's the door is open for Cup to go back to Rockingham? I thought that was good to hear.
Do you have any fun memory of racing at Rockingham or anything?
I hated that place until the very last race. And now I'm almost sad that I didn't get more shots at running there. It was hard. I went there in the Xfinity Series in 97 and drove the Wrangler car. My track bar was dropping on the right side as we ran the race, but I ended up running like 14th or something and struggled, but not too bad. Went back in 98 and 99, and I don't think anything great happened. And I remember Harvick missing the show there in his Xfinity debut. And that, it just made me have a hard time appreciating the track because of how brutal it could be. Went there as a rookie in the Cup Series and literally ran dead last the whole day, busting my ass, not knowing what in the hell was what I needed to be doing different. But I ran in the freaking back. And then in 01, wrecked there, embarrassed the hell out of me. Dad was killed at Daytona, and then I go there and wreck in a very similar-looking accident. I was so embarrassed. I just wanted to be under the radar that day and just race my race. And then I couldn't have been more in front of the freaking spotlight because of all that, and that sucked. And it was just a racetrack that I just didn't appreciate. It was hard, slick. Finally, whatever the last year was, 04 maybe, 03 or 04, we went back there and, I forgot. I got wrecked by Kurt Busch off of turn 2 and then went out there and chased him around in the John Deere car. And Tony Sr.'s like, stop with him, damn it. I was like, I don't hear you. I can't hear your radio's messed up. He's like, don't tell me that. He was so pissed off at me. I was like, damn, I thought Tony Sr. would be glad that I was messing with Kurt. But he was not, because I think the official was in his ass about it on pit road. But I just had a lot of rough days there. And then the last race, I ran 5th, and I had a good car, and I felt like I'd figured it out. And I was like, man, that was pretty fun. And then we quit going. Now it's got new asphalt. I don't want nothing to do with that. I don't like new asphalt. Give me the oldest asphalt you got. That's the kind of track I like.
Lots of character to
and
it.
I hated those when I was young and started racing in Xfinity and Cup. I hated Darlington, hated Rockingham, hated all the wore out places. And I ran great at the high grip repaves. Even later in my Cup career, we go to Pocono once they repaved that place. Man, we were hooked up. Michigan repaved it. Hooked up. Loved it. But now I like the old wore out tracks.
Is it just because you understand it now?
Just because I feel like I got a shot. I'm 50 years old. I'm not going to go out there. If you put me and Connor Hall, for example, in the same 2 late model stock cars, he's probably going to be a half a tenth to a tenth better. And I feel like I can do a better job taking care of my tires. Tire conservation on those wore out tracks is important. And that gives me a shot to kind of have an even opportunity at the end of the day.
Makes sense.
He can go out there and he can hot lap and beat me in hot laps, but lap 125, I think we're going to be about the same. Yeah,
gotcha.
If I do everything right. Hey, everybody, you want the latest Dale Jr. download apparel? Visit shop.dirtymomedia.com. We're always adding new stuff all the time, especially like when we say something silly on this show. We'll put it on a t-shirt. Again, check it out at shop.dirtymomedia.com. All right, we're joined by Kyle Larson, the winner this past weekend in the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series at Bristol. Awesome weekend for you. I know you came up short again on the triple. You'll have to give that a go. I guess maybe next year. I know that you have ran 2 Xfinity races this year. You could probably run a few more trucks if you wanted to. Spire would probably love that. But I know the Xfinity car over at the Hendrick shop is relatively full with Day and a couple of things they have planned. Is Homestead and Bristol the only 2 races you're running this year?
Yeah, those were the only 2 that I had scheduled. So, yeah, it's a small team, really,
yeah.
The 17, and they don't have much equipment. So I think they got to kind of pick and choose their races wisely, and then Corey's got his races that they're committed to, and I think there's a few other guys maybe getting in it later here too. So
I wasn't sure.
I had a lot of fun though with it. It's
fun. I was, you picked 2 of your best tracks, Homestead and Bristol, and then you got out and went on Harvick's podcast yesterday and dropped a bomb. Maybe you weren't intending to do that, but you had a point to make about how you feel like that the Xfinity Series drivers and some of the young guys need to know where that benchmark is and need to understand kind of what the level of competition might be like at the Cup level. And I tend to agree with the point for sure. I raced against Mark Martin, man, and he pushed us all to try to even get near what he was able to do on the racetrack. And Kyle Busch did that for years. Would come in and race races and just dominate, and you knew you were running for second when he showed up, and you're that guy too when you show up and run these races. But I think what the rest of the field. I'm an owner in the series, and I feel this way as well. I think we'd love for you to try to sign up for more races this year, so we could have a few shots at you. To come out of the car and say those kind of things, man, it kind of puts a target on you. And I'd love to see you sign up for some more races this year, so we could try to see if we could even the score.
No, I mean, obviously I would love to race more if I could. But yeah, I mean, touching on that point a little bit more too, like, I think, like you mentioned, Kyle Busch was kind of that guy. And it was more than Kyle Busch too. I mean, I remember it'd be like Kyle, Brad or Joey, God, who else? Matt Kenseth even ran a handful of them. There was a lot of Cup guys that ran in really good equipment. And, although I didn't beat them as often as they beat me, I definitely feel like they helped elevate my skill set and pushed me to get better because, you're only as good as your competition. And, NASCAR is limited Cup guys from running Xfinity now and trucks. So, like I said, you're only as good as your competition. And when you don't allow the great competition to come compete with them, you're just, limiting the runway of those kids getting better. So,
Yeah.
which in turn, I feel like only hurts the premier, series down the road when those guys aren't fully capable and fully ready for the Cup Series once they get there. So, I don't know if it can ever get back to what it was, now that, Penske doesn't have a team and, JGR doesn't have, they have a lot of cars, but they don't have,
The all-star car.
Field, full-time Cup
Yeah.
guys. So I just don't know if it'll ever get back to there because of, the limitations that they put on it. But I like to take advantage of the couple that I get to run a year and try to smash the field.
Yeah, well, you did that at Homestead and Bristol. I'd love to if you would. I know you don't love the track, but you should go to Martinsville because they certainly could learn a thing from you there.
Well, I would probably get smashed there. But,
Everybody gets smashed at Martinsville. The triple that you were, I'm going to assume that you signed up to do this to try to knock that out in 1 year, to try to tie Kyle Busch and that record. And I find that, if that's true, I find that really interesting that that clues me in to like what motivates a guy like you, right? Is you look at these little nuggets out there and you're like, that's a cool accomplishment. I want to go do that. Is there, I guess since you're, still on that quest, is that something that you'll continue to focus on going into the next year or two?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, it wasn't like the triple is not, or wasn't like the main motivating factor to me picking running all three at those races.
Yeah.
It's on my mind when I select, my two favorite and best tracks, but I really just love racing those tracks is why I wanted to, stack them on each other. And, if I was to win the triple and be able to tie Kyle Busch, I think that would be a neat feat, but, it's not the main motivating factor. Yeah. Maybe now that I've gotten close a couple times, maybe that will motivate me even more to try it in the future. But it's really tough, and it makes you realize like how extremely good Kyle Busch is because he's done it twice and he's won 2 out of 3. Many more times also. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. You had a great run on Sunday, and I think that there's a big conversation around the short track package. It's been a struggle. Denny had a really, really solid podcast yesterday where he outlined his opinions around the car. I think that no one in their right mind has an issue with a guy coming into a race and dominating. We all love to see that in sports. But what I think we look at is the racing in the middle of the pack. I watched, I'm a big fan of Josh Berry, and I sit there and watch him race in 14th all day long, literally behind the same car and in front of the same car the entire race. And I'm like, yeah, okay, Kyle is great. He's going to go out there, and Denny and all those guys are going to race at the front of the field. But what we see in the middle of the pack is mind-boggling in terms of the lack of drama and action. And Denny spelled it out. Like he races every lap, basically going into each corner trying to guess where the car in front of him is going to go so he can go somewhere else. And I know that, you had success and you probably, were in a cocoon throughout the race just driving in your own little world. But do you think that there will ever, be a way to get this car to where it might produce a little more of a dynamic event for, the fan who's watching the field from fifth on back, so they're not all kind of just kind of running in line.
Yeah, I listened to that as well, and I agreed with everything he said. And I'm also not an engineer, but
yeah.
I feel like the way he describes things and explained it and explained his recommended changes, I think would, in my head anyways, make a difference. So. Yeah, I would love to see NASCAR try. Like, I think, for a long time when I was in Cup, like we had different rule packages every year. And
yes.
it was fun. Like, it was a fun challenge, every year. And I don't know. I feel like with the NextGen car, it's become pretty stale. Like, for me, like, it's the same thing every year. It's the same guys up front every week. It's you can kind of predict the race before the race and what it's going to look like. And that kind of makes me less excited about racing NextGen cars. So yeah, I would love to see some more small changes. Maybe some large ones, as long as they're not going to cost the teams a bunch of money. But yeah, and then touching on like Bristol in particular and the tire aspect side of it. As long as I've been racing at Bristol, there's never been like tire wear, except for the spring race last year, which was odd. But I feel like since we've gone to the NextGen car, it just doesn't, like, the track doesn't get as black as it used to. Like, the rubber doesn't stick to the track, so the pace kind of stays fast, and it's just it doesn't get as greasy feeling as it does in Xfinity. Like, Xfinity gets really, really greasy, and like when you used to race there, the top fast, but then it would start to slow down because it gets really hot and slick and greasy. So I don't think we necessarily need to search for a tire that's going to wear, but I think trying to continue to build a tire that can like stick the rubber to the track, allow the rubber to stack. Like, I feel like tires on top of rubber that's stuck to a track, it just doesn't grip that well, and then we're sliding around more, and we're having to slow down more and be more precise on our corners and making more mistakes. So which is what you see in Xfinity. It's much harder to hit your line every lap in Xfinity. So, yeah, I don't know. I think there's definitely room to improve, but Bristol's still fun, no doubt about it. But yeah, I could definitely use something to try to fix it. I think the car side of it, and then maybe a tire that could just get the track black.
That's some awesome insight. Just really good information, man, that I think NASCAR and Goodyear can take and use. And I know that they're trying. Goodyear's really worked hard to try to make some gains, and we appreciate the effort there. But I know you guys got the off weekend. You're going to race in Knoxville for a couple nights and then go to WrestleMania, which should be pretty awesome. Appreciate you giving us some time today. I hope you have a great weekend. Good luck racing, and have fun with your family.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You too. Thanks.
You bet, man. Xfinity Mobile, NASCAR fans, now you get speeds that you need on or off the track with Xfinity Mobile. Access to Wi-Fi speeds up to 1 gig in millions of locations nationwide. And with its nationwide coverage, it's always going to come through in a clutch. You take NASCAR on the go with Xfinity Mobile, or anything else you want to do. I've got that stuff. I've got that Xfinity Mobile. I like it. I have a this ain't no joke. So I know y'all think, we just read these commercials and we just read these, they give me this sheet and I'm like, yeah, yada, yada, yada. But I've told y'all this before. So I got this house that we have a vacation home. I'm very proud of it. And I didn't own a vacation or any type of home like that till 2008. I was but so that was kind of, anyways, another story. But it's got Xfinity internet, and it is way out on the end of this street. And I'm looking at the lines. I know which line is the internet line, the fiber line, and I'm looking at the telephone poles. Some guns been up there. These 1945 telephone poles. This stuff's old, rickety, and my internet only went out once. And that was because somebody backed into the telephone pole right where the line comes down to go into the ground and cut the line in half. And I had to go out there and put 2 new coax ends on it and fasten it back together and move it around the backside so when they back into that pole again, they don't cut the line. But it is way out on the very fringes of their service. And my cams and all my stuff always works. I can open my app right now and look and see the front porch, the garage door, always working. So it's good stuff. I got my little sim rig out there. I'm racing online, playing video games, whatever. Ain't got no problems, no lag, nothing. But I appreciate Xfinity Mobile. I love that I get to talk about a partner that I actually use the stuff, because it makes me really happy to say what I got to say. Anyways, we're going to move on before y'all start giving me hell in the chat talking about Xfinity Internet. for an hour.
I really hope this chat doesn't freeze.
Don't light me up, man. I'm really proud of that. Xfinity Mobile.
Yeah, we got a lot of people in the chat, including our good friend Master of Light. They're a big DBC fan, so it's good to see
Sitting here
everyone
with my
tuning in.
ears tucked into my hat and my sunglasses on the back of my neck. With my jewelry on, watching As Junior. Michael, you're funny. That's hilarious.
Do you?
Hey, I got to tell y'all. So I know we get a lot of people that watch and listen to the Dale Jr. download.
Yeah.
But the amount of people in the last month, especially in the last 2 weeks, that have come up to me and said nothing but stuff about Bless Your Heart has been really surprising. I was at Cordele racing the late model this weekend, and grown men my age coming up talking about it. And I think the show's fun. We have fun doing it. But I was going to be okay if it wasn't everybody's cup of tea, particularly our male NASCAR demographic.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be great for female demographic. We have a lot of females watch, but really surprised at the dudes, our good hardcore race fans that are enjoying it and they crack up and they'll crack a joke and it's fun. So I've been enjoying that.
Yeah, I mean it's not like a marriage show.
No.
It's a life show.
Yeah.
Everyone can relate to that.
And we put ourselves out there.
Yeah.
Me complaining about people hanging their sunglasses in their shirt, I knew I was going to get roasted. It's okay. And even Amy, she's like, yeah, that's a you problem. And so that's all right.
You roasted me in our group chat over the weekend about
We got
that.
Wilmington, Oregon, Dallas,
Australia.
Indonesia.
Goodness.
Wow.
Edmonton, Alberta. Man.
Have you been to Canada?
Yes.
Yeah.
I went and shot. Y'all remember there was a fuel additive that there's a fuel additive that I had on the quarter panel of my rookie 2000 Cup car. I've got a bottle of it still. But it was this fuel additive, and I went to Ontario to shoot the commercial for that. I was in this industrial park. It was an old closed-down industrial facility, and I'd take this Camaro.
The Outlaw?
Yes, the Outlaw. I'd take this Chevy Camaro and do some donuts in this little – and I did it. I did all that work driving the car. I was
You were the professional driver on a closed course?
Yes.
Wow.
So I drive it through these little tight corridors, and they were like, drive up here and spin, do donuts. And it was like a room this size. And I'm like, I'm going to hit everything. I'm going to hit everything in here. I'm going to hit everything. Oh, wait, I can do donuts, but I'm going all over. I can't do a donut and be precise with my donuts. But I didn't do any damage. We had a lot of fun.
That is impressive.
It was cool. They went up there to shoot it because it was cheaper. And I guess they could circumvent some sort of laws and so forth to shoot it outside the United States. And I've been to Vancouver. And, one place I want to go now that we're talking about this? There is a road that you can take on the western side of Canada that goes all the way up to Alaska. And driving up that road, you pass by all of these old western sort of vintage 1600 saloons and towns, and they're just 4 blocks, 6 blocks wide, and tiny little towns on the side of these rivers.
The Alcon Highway?
Yes. I want to drive that. I've tried to tell Amy, I'm like, Amy, I want to do that. And she's like, yeah, take a buddy.
Oh, she'll go with you.
Yeah. I'm like, no, it'd be fun. Just drive up there and stop a couple of them little towns, and they've got these old saloons and stuff that have just not, it's like a time capsule inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are so cool.
Yeah.
Anytime where you can take a peek back and see what life was like 100, 200, 300 years ago.
Yeah. I've got this story.
Badass.
It's a funny-ass story. I'll tell it. So I was watching a show where there's a thing that people do. There's a river maybe up toward Alaska or around or in and around that road we're talking about coming down through Canada. People, this happens annually. People there'll be some dudes and they'll get their buddies and they'll go up north or wherever and they'll buy a bunch of timber and lumber, and they'll build a giant float raft, like, 20 by 20, and they'll actually pitch tents on it, and they're going to float this river for as far as they can. And they just sit on this float, and they just kind of work their way down this river for days and days. And I was watching this documentary of these guys that were doing it, and they cook, and they're hanging out and drinking, laughing, having fun, and they'll stop, get off, whatever, for a little bit, and get back on their little raft. And it's just a raft with a standard old school 2-man tent, and they'll have a couple tents on there, and it looks amazing because it's just being outdoors and cooking and
in the wild.
The Copper River.
Yes. And so, and they're floating down this river, and there'll be rafts that are abandoned on the side of the river. People are just like, yep, had enough. We're just getting off. Leave your raft right there. And I was like, damn, that sounds awesome. So, and this was around 2002, 2001. Me and my buddies, we pinpointed a river in western North Carolina. We were going to build a raft, and we were going to float.
Just like these guys on the show.
Yeah. So we drove around Mooresville, and we snuck into a couple marinas, and we stole some pier floats that go under piers that hold piers up out of the water. There'd be some big, giant plastic square things that go under piers laying over on the side, and we'd be like, oh, man, pull over, just throw it in the back of the truck. And we haul ass, right? So we stole a few things, and then we went and bought a bunch of lumber at Lowe's, and then we built this raft on the back of a flatbed trailer that was hooked up to my truck. Okay. We filled the back of this truck with all the gear, sleeping bags, tents, grilling equipment, food.
Just like the show.
Coolers full of beer. We had everything in the back of the truck ready to go. The damn float is on the back of this trailer, built, ready.
Yeah.
And there's 4 of us. And it's me, David Neal, David Hovis, and Josh Schneider, I think. And we called Jimmy Elledge. Mm-hmm. And I was like, Jimmy Elledge is Carson's dad, Carson, my niece. And we called Jimmy Elledge. We're like, hey, Jimmy, man, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to drive me to western North Carolina. About 3 hours from here, you're going to drop us off. We're going to throw this raft in the creek, and we'll call you a couple days from now and come pick us up.
A couple days from now, yeah.
And he's like, all right. It's about midnight when I called him. I was like, you're going to drive us. We're going to unload this thing. You can take off, go home, and we'll call you when we need you. He gets to the house, and he's like, hey, man, have you tested this thing out? I'm like, no, we ain't. I mean, I just assumed it would float. He's like, you might want to test this thing out. And so we take this big float, right? All 5 of us pick this thing up, and it was heavy as hell. It's everything we could do to put it in the pool. We put it in my swimming pool. And then I got on it, and it was like 2 inches above the water. And so, like, with all of our stuff and all 4 of us, it was not going to float. And so we aborted. I'm glad we didn't drive all the way there to learn that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that's a real story. And we just had we got 2x12s, and we just had the wood we put on this thing was far, far too heavy. That was not scienced out properly.
Shocker.
Yeah.
Statute of
This
limitations.
was back in the Bud days, if that explains anything.
Yeah. I think that does help explain a lot. That's hilarious. Yeah. Wow. What a story.
Fan Day info, please, Jim Wood. Got any Fan Day info? I think there's somebody look that up for you. We'll get it for you here, Jim, before we get offline. There is a Fan Day here happening at Junior Motorsports.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of outdoors, this is a question from a few weeks ago, but Jeremy wants to know, how often do you go camping, or do you go camping at all?
Do we count in a fifth wheel from Camping World?
Sure.
Really? Well, I camped this weekend at Cordele Speedway.
Oh, okay. Then maybe I don't know if that counts.
Oh, okay.
Like in the woods,
camping.
Yeah.
So I'm into that.
Building a fire.
Yeah, I'm into that. I'm into it. Going getting some cedar, kindling, and really, I'm into that. I like to. So on the lake here, Lake Norman is a man-made lake right here in Mooresville and around this area. There's some islands out there that's owned by Duke Power, and you can go out on those islands, and there's places where people camp on them.
Oh.
And so they're cleared out in the centers of these islands. These islands only be like an acre at the most, a couple acres. But you can park your pontoon, unload all your stuff, and hang out on the shoreline, and then build your tent, 20, 30 foot into the woods. There'll be some clearings, and people have been out there, right? And so we used to do that. Me and Hank Parker Jr. or all my buddies, when we had an off weekend in the Busch Series in 98, 99, we'd fill up 2 boats slam full of people and stuff and beer and go out and park on that island. And the deal was we got there on Friday and your ass wasn't leaving till Sunday. All right, you bring a bar of soap, wash in the lake, and all that.
Oh, that's the life.
Yeah, it was so fun. And, you just drink beer all night and then lay around all day nursing a hangover and then go back at it. But, man, it was awesome. And I like that. I like that kind of stuff.
Is that island still, like, can you still do that?
There's a bunch of them. There's bunches of islands on the lake that have that. And so it's pretty cool. I would do that again. And I kind of like that minimalist, take the bare necessities and,
It's good every now and then for the soul.
Yep.
Yep, I agree. I don't know, that this outdoor talk makes me want to go camping. I've only been camping a handful of times.
Really?
But, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't been a ton either, but it's something I do enjoy. But I really like my fifth wheel. We got rid of the bus, and I got a fifth wheel from Camping World. One of the lower end models. It's not super high end, but I like it because I can fix anything on it. All the stuff on it's like the plumbing and wiring and everything and paneling and everything. The rack in the closet fell because I tried to hang some heavy shit stuff on it, like my driving suits and stuff. So driving down the road,
it
bounces in the back, and the closet rack fell. So I fix that. Go get some hardware. Boom. I can fix it. Anything on it. I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. This one's from Twitter this week. Travis Hill wants to know, like in 2012, Tony Stewart was like making fun of a reporter, and you're sitting right next to him, just trying to hold back laughter.
David Newton.
Yeah. Do you
I know
remember
David
how
Newton.
difficult it was?
It might have been David Newton.
I think it was.
Yeah.
It was an ESPN reporter, I want to say.
Tony Stewart.
Do you remember how difficult it was to
No,
contain yourself?
Not difficult. Every time you were around Tony, he was giving somebody a hard time. And sometimes he was doing it in a playful way because he liked the person, but sometimes he was doing it because he was just sick of their shit. And he had a couple, he had a decade-long era there where he was mad at everybody at one point. Then he was just mad at Joey, and then he was just mad at one person or this person. Then he was mad at a couple media people for a while. But that's the one thing. That's what I like about Tony is you always kind of knew where you stood, and if he popped off, he was also the kind of guy that would come over later and go, "Hey, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah,
you're awesome." So he's got the one thing about Tony Stewart that a lot of people don't know is he's a teddy bear. He's very sensitive, and in behind closed doors, he has regrets and sometimes his actions, right, that he's had in the past. I've learned that he's had some pretty tough times dealing with some of those regrets over some of his actions, right? But so he's a good dude. Coincidentally, just won this weekend.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty big deal.
We were talking about that on DBC yesterday. He's won basically every form of motorsports outside of F1. Because he hasn't started an F1 race.
I think the world of that guy, and I'm so happy for him being a dad and how that's changed or how he's enjoying that.
Yeah.
And happy for Leah. I wish he was driving in circles. I love that he's found. I love that he's into this drag racing, and I love that he's in it.
Yeah.
He's beyond no return. But I miss him at the NASCAR tracks as a competitor.
Would he do a Cars Tour race?
I don't know. Yeah. Probably not. Not.
Well, maybe this is our formal invitation.
Yeah.
Come do a Cars
I
Tour
want to
race.
see him come up. I want to see him do 1 or 2 Xfinity races a year. It was always cool when he was in the race in the field. So I'd love to see him race an Xfinity race. Go back to Daytona or something.
Absolutely. We have the Fan Day date. It is May 22nd. I believe that's a Thursday.
There you go.
Here at Junior Motorsports.
There you
so
go.
Come check it out. Get here early. Last year was crazy. Parking, that was...
Yeah. Oh, we're, speaking of Fan Day, I think me and Amy are doing a live Bless Your Heart on Fan Day. She might not even know that. We're discussing it. We're discussing it. Yeah, that'd be fun.
That will be awesome. Let's see. This next one, also from Twitter this week. Let me see if J Grip 3899 wants to know, Kyle Larson brought his wing panel in for you last week on the show. What was the story behind it? Because it sounded like he was meaning to get that to you.
He had, I guess so. I don't know when that conversation started, but I was telling him that I had an old Steve Kinzer sideboard off of one of his wings, and he's like, I could give you one off of one of our cars. I was like, hell yeah, I want one. So it's been sitting over his shop for almost a year, and I just haven't gotten over there to get it. And so I was kind of surprised that he remembered, because me and him kept forgetting to like connect on that. But he's had that for a while to hand over, and apparently it's got some real history because he blew the hole in the side of it, and they taped the clipboard to cover the hole. Like it was a rush job. All I got's a clipboard, duct taped the clipboard, and he still, I guess that's the owner's clipboard of the guy that owned the race car, and he still uses that very clipboard today.
That is badass.
Very cool.
That is really cool.
And you can see where the clipboard, it's the shape of a clipboard, how the tape goo is still there. Just neat. And Kyle Larson, you can collect cup sheet metal. It's relatively plentiful these days because it's become a market where teams will, when they mileage out, we got piles of this stuff around here from our cars for sale for people to buy little bits and noses and stuff. And I even sell some of the late model car that I knocked the nose off of it this weekend. All that stuff will be in here for sale. But to get something unique like his dirt car, signboard, that's not something that's you're going to commonly see out there. So I'm kind of pumped about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. This kind of reminds me of the helmet swaps. I don't see a whole lot of those anymore.
Dude, I was at Cordele and this little kid was like, "I want your helmet after the race." I was like, "Man, it's a $5,000 helmet." I mean, I don't love that it costs that much, but I don't have.
And do you get a whole lot of helmets?
No, I that was the other thing too. I would get guys calling me up, guys in other forms of motorsport, wanting to do a helmet swap. And I'm like, I can't. I'm like, that helmet is the one I use every week. Like Tony Stewart and those guys, like Tony Stewart in his final season used a different helmet every week. I would have loved to have done that, but they don't fit. I'm very particular about the forehead and everything.
What do you mean they don't fit?
Like you'll put one on and halfway through the race you got a headache because its pressure points are different. Back then they didn't mold them to your head. Now they scan your head and they put an insert in there that fits you perfectly. But back then I'd get a helmet that I liked. I was using the Simpson stuff back there, or Impact helmets. And, man, I'd get a helmet that I liked, and I use the same one every single practice, every race. Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the year, I'd have one helmet to give to a golf tournament or a charity or something.
Yeah.
And so when I'd give it away, I'd be like, now I got to
get a new one.
Find one that I love that I'll just keep using. Because I didn't like to change shoes. I use the same shoes, same gloves. I use the same everything till it would wear out.
Dale, what happened with your ketchup packet?
Oh, I can't. No, that's for Bless Your Heart. Sorry. You got to listen to Bless Your Heart for that one. That was a hell of a issue with a ketchup packet this weekend.
Okay, let's talk about the Mike Davis story then.
Yeah. That's for Bless Your Heart, too. Oh. You got another question?
One more, we're just going to wrap it, Andrew. This is on you.
Dang it.
All right, I'll tell the ketchup packet.
No, save it for Bless Your Heart.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We were at Cordele this weekend, and God dang, man. We were at Cordele this weekend. We had a great time with the Cars Tour. Frustrating into the race, but we talk about that earlier in the show. my car's parked in the garage behind our hauler, and there was nothing to the left side of it, and they had this railing. It was temporary railing you could move around, and the folks that wanted to be waiting for an autograph or a die cast would walk up and rest on that railing, probably from me to you, right? Mm-hmm. And I would get in my car and practice and pull in and pull out and get my, and then come over and sign some die cast and, try to take care of, there was 20 or so people kind of meandering around this fence. Finally, I'm standing over there signing the last couple of autographs, middle of the afternoon, and there was really only about 2 or 3 people still standing there with a couple die casts, and I heard this boom noise behind me. It was down pit road, but something got hot, and it didn't explode would be the wrong word, but it popped. Burst. And so I just heard a boom. Exactly in the same very moment that noise was made, I felt something fly onto me like a wet substance. And it hit me I had on my driver's uniform, brand new white.
No.
Brand new white Bass Pro Shops fire suit. And I felt it land on the fire suit. Little specks, like dime size dots. And it was red.
I'm hit.
So initially, like my very first, like this is all in fractions of a second, I thought, I'm not turning around to see what that was and why there's red on me now. Red fluid. Like somebody is injured. I don't know what happened, what the explosion was. Did it hurt somebody? I was really like, this is in a very, like a half a second I had that thought, because in the next half a second, I smelled ketchup. And I was like, that's ketchup. And it was on my neck. And I was like, where in the hell did ketchup come from? So I'm looking around to my left, because that was the direction in which it came. And I'm like, there's nothing there. Stefan's standing there. And he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, what in the world? Where did this ketchup come from? And it's little dots on my brand new uniform. And I looked down, and it was a brand new ketchup packet laying on the ground about a foot from me. And the person that I just autographed their die cast walked by and stepped on it, and it shot it straight up in the air all over me. And Stefan comes walking up with like a handful of like fast food napkins.
Little napkins.
Yes,
he was doing
fast food napkins.
Yeah.
And he's like right in the middle of the pits. And I was like, Stefan, we're going into the trailer to fix this. We're not doing this out here. I was like, no one noticed. Let's just go into the hauler. And so we just walk into the hauler like nothing happened. And in my little gooseneck trailer, I got a little curtain I can go behind because we can run the air conditioner in there and try to keep the cool air in there. I go in there. I got some of those. We had some of those Lysol towels in the little plastic cylinder. You pull one out at a time. We got all of the stuff off of me. Cleaned up the driver's uniform perfectly. No problem. But, man, it was just like right at the same time I heard this boom.
Was that related to?
No, unrelated, but perfectly timed. And so for this real split second, I was like, somebody's hurt. There's been something's just happened.
Like catastrophically.
What in the world? Yes, catastrophic.
Yeah.
And then I was like, ketchup. And then I was looking down, I was like, damn it, who dropped a brand new packet down? And it just stepped on it, just perfectly, shot on my suit and all over my face. It was embarrassing, but
wow.
There you have it.
I can't believe.
I cannot tell a lie.
I can't believe you
That's
got
what happened to me.
All off.
Yeah.
Ketchup on white.
It's fine.
That
those
would have me nervous.
Lysol or whatever those little disinfectant things are.
They work hard.
They did a good job.
Wow.
Yeah. I appreciate Xfinity Mobile and everything that they're doing for us here at Dirty Mo Media, and everything they do for the Dale Jr. Download, and everything they're doing for me down that long road at the end of the power line where it doesn't look like service should work, but it always does. They come in clutch for us NASCAR fans. We can take this Xfinity Mobile on the go and always have great service and be able to catch the tail ends of these races. I was in Cordele, couldn't really sit down in front of a TV and watch the Xfinity race and watch Kyle Larson beat up on the Junior Motorsports guys. But I was able to follow along on my phone because of Xfinity Mobile. So appreciate it, and we'll see y'all the rest of the week. Thank you. You know that feeling you get when you're watching drivers fight it out on the racetrack, giving it everything they've got for the checkered flag? Well, you can capture that feeling forever with cars from Lionel Racing, the official diecast of NASCAR. The ultimate way to celebrate the biggest moments in racing. These diecasts aren't toys, they're authentic, high-quality replicas of your favorite rides from the sport's biggest stars, including myself and the guys on my race team. Whether you're a longtime collector or a fan who's new to the sport, Lionel Racing diecasts bring the heart of racing to your shelf or man cave with incredible detail. They're built with precision, with all the exact decals, logos, and paint schemes you've seen on the actual cars. And trust me, these cars make you feel like you're right there in the middle of it. So head to LionelRacing.com, your favorite racing team shop, or any authorized retailer, and start building your collection today. And don't forget, you can find a wide selection of diecasts at the Lionel stores in Concord Mills near Charlotte Motor Speedway and Opry Mills in Nashville. All right, it's time for Dirty Modo, and coming into the studio to help us with this is our degenerate gambler, Tampa Tim's. This segment of Dirty Modo is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is a great partner here at the Dale Jr. Download.
Another sponsor we use.
It is another sponsor that we use and enjoy. I'm trying to log in so I can talk to you guys about what I've been up to because I had a fun couple of days.
Hockey playoffs starts this Saturday.
Hockey playoffs. Boy, I don't know. I ain't really ever bet much on hockey.
Careful betting.
When I did, it did not go well.
Yeah.
Shots on goal is a tricky one because it's like one person deciding if it's
Then I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. Shots on goal, folks. Don't do it. That's some great advice.
Saves.
Saves? Okay.
That's the goal.
Well, I want to shout out Jason Kubler. Came in clutch last night. Picked him for Moneyline live bet.
What sport is that?
Tennis.
Tennis.
Yeah.
Okay.
He won in 2 sets. So he put us into the plus.
Oh.
I've been on a bad swing.
He put us into the plus money. Dude, I have been going up since the beginning of March Madness.
He's on a run.
Yeah. I'll lose. I'll lose a little, but the next bet comes through, and so we're just kind of.
Yeah.
It's like a little ladder, little step.
Yeah.
Up and up to the top.
But we're going up.
Yeah, we're going up.
I'm the other way.
Yep.
I've been doing well recently.
I had 3 losses in a row before Jason Kubler came through.
Tim's just making excuses for his bets.
I was doing some live betting for the Rockies last night, and damn it, they just kept scoring.
The Rockies.
Those stubborn Rockies.
What was it, a home game?
They were at the Dodgers.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah, they weren't doing me many favors. But as we'll talk about on the I'm sure we'll talk about this on Bless Your Heart. I did win 83 cents when they did not score in the third.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Rockies.
Travis is so annoyed.
88. I can't wait to hear this.
All right. Tim's, what were the bets last week? We did this last week, and I've already forgotten.
Yeah, we took some shots on Chris Buescher.
Yep.
And I took a shot on Michael McDowell, so that obviously didn't work out because Larson dominated. I also had a bet Ryan Preece in a group bet, which I never do, against 3 other drivers, and he did not have the weekend I thought.
I think I was on maybe a top 10 for Stenhouse, which was looking good after qualifying.
Great. Yeah, it looked great.
And A.J. Allmendinger, maybe.
Yeah.
I can't remember. But
I think we talked about it, yeah. But Stenhouse was our main point last week. Yeah.
Didn't come through.
No. I mean, honestly, if we're not taking shots on these guys like Stenhouse, McDowell, Buescher, the books have Larson's, the Hamlins, all the top guys. Unbettable.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, we got an off weekend coming up with the Cup Series, but the Xfinity Series goes to Rockingham. So, I'm sure you'll probably have some interesting bets. It's a brand new track. Nobody's been there in a long time. Rockingham, we don't know what to expect. Repave, relatively narrow groove. Could open up a little bit. But, you got Casey Kane out there. He may have some interesting odds,
He-
no pun intended.
Yeah, they're not out yet, but I would assume wouldn't be a favorite, but he'll be in the top echelon. Good car. I'll probably have something on him just because that's
I
a
think
fan favorite.
he's a top 10 bet for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that I would get in the car and go to Bristol, and I felt pretty confident if I didn't do anything dumb, I could run 7th or 8th.
Yeah.
Right? Or just on the fringe of the top 10. And I think I think he's in a better spot to do even better than that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would feel real comfortable with a top 10 bet for him. That's probably not great money there, but if you parlay it together with a few other things,
Yeah.
maybe you get lucky.
Who do you think will be like the favorite for this type of? It's a brand new track, like you said. Not a lot of
Who's driving the Joe Gibbs cars?
Justin Bonsignore's in the 19, and then Brandon Jones and William Sawalich, I think.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't put any money on those guys. Now, Sawalich or Jones could surprise.
Yeah.
Brandon Jones, I might put a top 5 on,
Mm-hmm.
but the money with him is probably not very good because he just come off of a win at Darlington.
Yeah, he might be.
So I don't think I would probably even bet those guys.
Yeah.
I know this is my guys, but like Connor Zilich and Carson, and even Sammy to an extent. I'd give Sammy a top 10 and maybe Connor Zilich a top 10. And Carson might be a guy to take a flyer on for a win.
Yeah. I don't hate that.
Yeah.
Carson came to mind for the my short list of guys I think he could do well here. Even though it's repaved, I still think he can do really well.
Yeah. I mean, the team's fast, and they're coming off of a great weekend at Bristol, a lot of momentum. They did have a test there, so you can look at the speeds at the test,
Yeah.
see who you thought was quick.
Yeah. I should look at that. Yeah.
Outside of that, you talked about the NHL playoffs. Anything else lingering around in the sports world that you think we ought to pay attention to this weekend? We're coming off the Masters.
Coming off Masters. I did not have a good Masters.
I had a great Masters.
Did you?
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
NBA play-in is about to start, so I think that's when we can start betting these player props with the stars because they're going to play and they're not going to be resting in load management.
That's awesome information.
Great take.
Because betting the NBA is not a lot of fun during the regular season. I had for the Masters, I had Morikawa. Is that how you say that?
Yeah,
Yep.
Morikawa.
I had him, Aberg, and Bryson for top 20s at plus 438.
Nice.
Ooh.
That one. I also had a 10-pick parlay where I had 8 people making the cut, 2 players not making the cut at plus 341, and that also won.
Yeah.
And I was real happy. I put 4 units total down on all that.
Nice. Good weekend then.
Yeah, solid for me. I'm going to put a couple, bets in, and I felt like those were real conservative. Didn't really want to go for an all-out winner or anything like that. That's not my style.
Tough. That's tough.
Yeah. But it was fun, man, and I was glued to the coverage, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have not paid it any attention until that very final few moments when Rory had to try to win in the playoff.
Yeah.
Which was so interesting to watch that happen. Not only him almost hand it away and then win it outright, but his reaction to winning it.
Yeah. Was awesome.
Pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
Even if I like Rory, I'm not a massive golf fan. I don't know much about. I just am super casual.
Yeah.
And that was emotional to watch. I can't imagine anybody watching that and not feeling something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just the amount of time it took him to win that next major.
Yeah.
The relief.
But that long walk, we just got to really see him trying to process it and how hard he just could not believe that he was living that moment.
Yeah.
Pretty neat to see.
Awesome.
A lot of those guys, man, they do get excited, but then they compose themselves.
Yeah.
And
It's either family and it's back to kind of like
you
a little
could
bit
tell
reality.
he was and his story too, how his mom and dad did everything they sacrificed for him to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
He knew that in that moment. He could feel all that happening, man. It was so cool.
That pressure, you saw it just release immediately when he sank it.
Yep,
But-
for sure. Pretty neat. I think he gained, he had a lot of fans already, but I think he gained some more with how, that's what we want. Like our drivers in the racing world can say and do really kind of anything they want and don't have to walk this perfect line. But when they win the race, show us how much that matters and means to you, right? You don't get out and act too cool for school.
Yeah.
Show us exactly what's going on inside in that elation, because that's what we adhere to as fans and viewers.
Mm-hmm. You just never know when it's your last one too. And
I can't get excited about something that you're not excited about.
No, exactly. Rory does not need to even continue to play. He's got all the money. He's got all the accolades, really. And to see how much he really cared about that was like, oh, wow, that really meant something to him.
Sure.
You're right, 100% right.
Well, all right, man. Appreciate you, Alex.
Of course.
I enjoy this segment, and I might ask you guys some questions about the NHL the playoffs?
Yep, Stanley Cup playoffs.
So I might ask you some questions about that to see about some bets that I might be interested in. I'm definitely tuned up for the NBA play-in games in the very beginning of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
There might be some decent money line stuff on some of the first rounds of the playoffs for the NBA. And I'm just going to keep on having fun betting my nickels and quarters on no runs in the innings of these live bets for the Major League Baseball. That's so much fun. Me and Amy sitting on the couch watching this show we're streaming. We're binge watching this particular show. It's I think it's called On the Spectrum or
okay.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there and that baseball game's going on, and I'm just like, yeah, Rockies.
Rockies didn't score.
No score Rockies.
Yeah.
Them Rockies. They scored last night. Too many times.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you. Dirty Modo is brought to you by FanDuel, the premier gaming destination in the United States. All right, it's time for the white flag. We talked about it earlier in the show. Denny Hamlin's actions detrimental. He did a good job. His quest for 3 wins fell short, but he came through as a podcast host. Had a lot to say about the short track racing and NASCAR at the Cup level today. Door Bumper Clear also dropped Monday. They were joined by our friend Steve Park. So good to see Steve. And awesome to have him come join us on the show. I was very thankful for that. Anytime they bring in a guest, man, it means a lot because it's something they're doing for nothing. They're just doing it out of pure joy. My interview with Edwin McCain will drop tomorrow. You don't want to miss that and see what Edwin's been up to and hear his story about how he's kind of clawed out of a deep, dark tunnel that he was in his life. I love that redemption story, and he's got one. Got some new material and new music out these days, and he's still touring and playing. Also on Wednesday, Herman Schrader and Speed Street dropped, and Thursday, another episode of Bless Your Heart. Hearing a ton about that. Everybody loves Bless Your Heart. And don't forget to head over to shop.dirtymomedia.com to check out all the new merch. This hoodie that I have on, Dale Jr. Download hoodie. Amy's got some amazing shirts, sweaters, and hats for Bless Your Heart. So even for the ladies, there's some really cool stuff there. And we got some really fun merch coming out. I think Amy's got a Jugs hat she's got coming out, if you remember the Jugs conversation.
Oh, yeah.
So we got hats, we got shirts, we got sweatshirts. Shop.dirtymomedia.com. Want to end this episode by saying that our hearts and our prayers go out to the families of John Edwards and Al Pierce. We have suffered some loss in the NASCAR community over the last couple of weeks, and that was some really tough news to learn between the two of those guys that have put so much into this sport and been such a good friend to so many people in the garage area and in the media center. So, so the sport will remember them fondly, and we'll see you tomorrow.